What's going on, John?
What's up? Welcome back.
We're in person.
This is amazing.
This is no longer a Zoom podcast for them.
No,
we're here.
This is face-to-face, in person, good microphone, table talk right here.
Life is great, isn't it?
Life is great, and it's especially great because I get to be here in Wilmington, North Carolina with you.
Let's go.
At the beach,
Yep.
eating all kinds of great food.
That's right.
And chilling
more to
here.
come. We're on a food tour right now.
We are, and it's been amazing so far.
Yes. And, man, it may be a little rainy outside here, but we're going to have the greatest day ever.
Absolutely.
Isn't that a Noah Heron?
It's going to be the best day ever.
Yes.
Best day ever.
Best day
Living
ever.
our best life now.
Let's go. I'm pumped. I am pumped.
You know, one of the coolest things about getting to be here is I've been able to meet most of your family.
Yes.
And so for those that don't know, Eli and I have this like crazy, unique friendship and relationship that has been going on for like 8 years now or 9 years. It's been
around 2010 era.
Yeah. We'll probably tell the full length story in a different episode, but like we connected through Twitter.
Yep.
And we have been able to be together in person. This is our fourth time now.
And we run a podcast together.
Right. But the cool thing is we've spent more collective time in this recent trip than all of the others combined.
Yep.
Which is just mind-blowing.
And a great thing.
Absolutely. But we're riding around in the car, and he's giving us you were giving us a tour of Wilmington, and it's been incredible.
Down by the beach, yep.
Your wife started sharing some things really with my wife, and we just had to sit there and listen to them compare notes on their husbands.
Yes.
But one of the things was that you have this unnatural attachment to certain clothing items like socks and, I mean, this is the PK podcast. Like anything that have all these holes in them.
Yep.
Like just these clothing items that are old and holy, but not in a spiritual sense. And so I'm just wondering, what's up with that?
I even have some T-shirts that they're white, but they used to have like a graphic on it, and now the graphic is worn off. And I think I was just scared to get new socks. Honestly, I don't know. I think sometimes I would think, like, we bought the socks, I'm just gonna keep wearing them until it's more of a principle thing. I was like, I'm just gonna keep. It's not hurting anyone today. And you say that enough times, the next thing you know, you got blisters in your feet. So.
Come on. I was listening to your wife share that story or that thing about you with these like holy socks and holy shirts and holy underwear and holy everything.
Yep.
Holy jeans are acceptable.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
That's in now.
Absolutely.
When I was growing up, though, holy jeans were not a thing. If you got a hole in your jeans, which if you're any kid, like especially a guy, like worth your salt, you were going to have holes in the knees because you played hard.
For sure.
Especially like crawling the carpet underneath the pews of the church building.
Absolutely.
But we had to put a patch on those because we weren't gonna expose this holiness to the world.
No, never.
But she's sharing that about you, and I kind of related with that, and my wife was laughing because I've got these shirts and socks and different things that have holes in them that I'm like, no, we can't get rid of that.
Yep.
And I started wondering, like, why is that? And I think that there are going to be so many preachers' kids that relate with this principle here.
Oh, yeah.
I think that part of the reason why we have this, I'm going to say poverty mentality or scarcity mentality or whatever you want to call it.
Whatever label you want to put on it, yeah.
Is because growing up, you never knew what finances and resources were going to look like. So you just were taught to like take care of everything that you had until it wasn't possible to actually wear it again.
It was like the principle of being a good steward of what you had.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's kind of like always the quote people go back to, like wherever you have like be a good steward of. That's the parable that we hear about when it comes to material things.
Right.
The taboo, like
I think it's interesting how the preacher's family has to be really good stewards of what they have when, I mean, it seems like a lot of people in the church don't have to be good stewards.
Mic drop.
Right. As long as they're good stewards of the tithe, no one says anything.
Exactly.
And they don't even have to be good stewards of that. They can go do and go buy. And I just started thinking about when school would start. Like, It's the new school year. Most people go shopping for school supplies and new school clothes.
Yep.
And that was not my experience at all.
Yep.
I remember our school making a dress code change where you were finally allowed to wear tennis shoes. And
that's a big deal.
I was like, I've got to have some tennis shoes, but we could afford, at least that's what I was told, we could afford to go to Walmart and buy a white pair of like Docker tennis shoes.
Oh yeah.
They were like what 70-year-old men wore. But I had to wear those jokers until like literally the sole was coming off of them because we had to be good stewards of what we had.
For sure, for sure. I think, well, I would go, because I grew up in a Christian school, so I had a uniform, sure had to be tucked in, the whole thing. Now that school, you can like wear wherever you want to there, but I was there whenever, you had to wear belts and tuck it in and collars, all that kind of stuff. I was able to get new shoes, but like those shoes, like they were going to last.
Right.
They were going to last. They were. Now, if needed, the upgrades happen. But I think for me, my process as well, they're not needed yet because they're not absolutely torn to shreds.
Right.
I used to have these pair of flip-flops, and I had a hole in the bottom of them because flip-flops, you're at the beach, you got to have a pair. So I had them, but I would wear the bottoms of these out, and I was like, it was almost like a badge of honor, like, oh, I finally got to the hole in the bottom of the flip-flops, like time for the upgrade. And thank God that's not how well, let me say, I was going to say thank God I don't see things that way, but the socks I'm wearing right now have a hole in the toe of them, so here we go.
All signs point to scarred as a PK,
Yeah.
and you're living in that right now.
The socks I have on now, I specifically remember them. I remember our team getting socks, our soccer team getting all these different socks and stuff like that for practice, and that was in 2009 or 10. So, I mean, these are like 10 or 11-year-old socks that I'm wearing right now.
Come on. Hey, while you're listening to this episode, you can swipe up on the show notes and tap our Instagram link, and we're going to have a graphic there. We want you to comment, like, what is that thing that you had to hang on to until, like, it was absolutely falling apart as a PK for some sort of a spiritual reason or some sort of a being a good steward reason? Because we're interested to know, how that has played out in your life like it has in ours.
Yeah.
But I remember for us, like, for the longest time, and this kind of transitioned as I got older, but for the longest time, it was like we had this rusting out Chevy Lumina van because, like, the Babylon Bee had that article a few weeks ago that was funny. It was like,
are you the Babylon Bee?
I'm not the Babylon Bee.
That's too bad.
I wish I was that creative. But it was like, pastor's lavish lifestyle called into question upon purchase of a 1998 used Corolla.
Yeah, I saw that.
And how many PKs haven't struggled with thinking that wearing stuff with holes in it or having things that were worn out or, living that type of, I'm going to say, and I don't mean it this way, but like that below the poverty line lifestyle was holy. Like your clothes being holy made you holy because that's how it was pitched to you biblically.
Yeah, pretty much.
How do you navigate through that now as an adult?
I think we've all evolved a little bit in that. Definitely, like from my parents' perspective, and being like, okay, well, like we don't have to always do this. Like, there's better ways to do things. Sometimes change is good. And I think for me now, even though I have my own paycheck, so I feel like I can do whatever I want to. Well, kind of.
Right.
However, like you're in control of your own things. So I think for me, I'm like, I guess in a weird way, like I'm not materialistic by any means, but I'm like, oh, if I see a shirt, and I like it, like I'll buy it if I can responsibly, or if I want to go to lunch and have a good lunch out, like me and John are gonna do, like we're gonna go do that. Like there's things like that we'll do, and it's just different. Maybe it's different now. Maybe you are someone who are on the other side, and you're like, you can't go to lunch. You got to eat every single thing in your pantry before you go and do anything else or go to the grocery store. And honestly, I hear you. So, and that's okay. But there's also better ways to it.
Right.
You don't have to be so. There's one thing about being responsible. This is not a thing. This is not a podcast about responsible versus irresponsible, or about being a good steward. Even it's that there's okay to have some freedoms.
Right. And this episode is really most about relating to your perspective as a preacher's kid, because we've been there, we've done that, we are that even still today, and we get it. And one of the pitfalls that we want to challenge you to avoid, at least the one that I fell in, was because we could only buy jeans from Sam's Club because we didn't want to be accused of spending too much money on jeans.
Right.
And we could only buy cheap shoes from Walmart because we didn't want to be accused of spending too much money on shoes. And again, this was not like our entire family's perspective. This was just something that was kind of thrown on us for whatever reason, like in my growing up years. Like I remember having the black dress shoes where the pleather was peeling off of them, and we would polish them and fill it in with Sharpie. Like
Sharpie, yeah.
We did that because we felt like we had to in order to be quote unquote good stewards. And the biblical principle that I see is where God is speaking to Samuel. He goes to anoint the future king of Israel, and he thinks all of the other brothers are it because of the way they looked or their age or whatever it might have been. But God said, man looks on the outward appearance, but I look on the heart.
Yep.
And that's where we can kind of twist that verse to say, well, it doesn't matter how you look and, whatever, because God looks on the heart. Okay, if that principle is true, it's true on both sides of the equation.
Absolutely.
And allowing people to judge your lifestyle by the type of clothes that you wear and allowing yourself to shop based on what other people are going to think. Like, oh, people might think this is too expensive. Again, it's not about being irresponsible. It's about knowing that God looks on the heart. And if you feel good in that jacket that might have cost a little bit more than the one from Walmart, go for it, because God knows your heart and he gave you style and preferences and tastes and all of those things on purpose. That's what makes you you.
Yep. Uniqueness is like such a valuable thing. I think we take it for granted that like each of you listening, me and John, even our like every single person has a unique fingerprint in the world, and you just can't look like a carbon copy of everything else,
right?
Or act like it. And again, like that's not to say go and spend $1,000 on a jacket. Like that's probably not the smartest thing in the world to do.
Sure.
But at the same time, like be you. It's okay to be you.
Absolutely.
It's okay for John to be John, for me to be me. We're very different, but we have something similar in common. So like it's okay for differences to happen.
I think one of the ways that I'm going to say scarred me, but it's not like, oh, I need counseling because I didn't have the right clothes growing up. It's not that at all. It was that one of the ways that I saw that impact me as an adult was when I finally got my own paycheck and I finally had the opportunity, I went like clothes crazy.
Yep.
I was like buying all the shoes and everything I could get even if I like only remotely liked it, it was like, I'm going to have all of it now. And I crossed the irresponsible line and had to come back toward the middle. But I remember filtering clothing purchases and even vehicle purchases through the filter of, will the people of the church think that I make too much money if I drive this used vehicle, or something like that. Yep. And what we're here to say to you as preachers' kids, young or old, or your parents that might be listening to these episodes in advance to make sure this is healthy for you to hear. We want to challenge all of you with the truth of Scripture that man looks on the outward appearance, and there will be people that judge you for being yourself.
Of course.
But the way you dress, the brand of clothes that you wear, the type of car that you drive. Okay, if you're pastoring a church of 40 and driving a Lamborghini, there might be, something up, but you might own a really great side business.
Yep.
What we're saying is stop filtering your life through the filter of, well, they might think this, because it will be a miserable, miserable life. So your holy clothes don't make you a holy Christian. Yep. They just make you somebody who people in the world look at and they go, oh, bless their heart, they're poor.
You get blisters.
Amen.
And you can't,
come on.
You can't live with blisters.
Absolutely.
Or you don't want to live with blisters, at least.
That's right.
So yeah, but this is a great conversation. I know it's very relevant for many people. And I just think that if you're listening out there today, there's no shame in being you. There's no shame in that at all. God made you. So do what you can. Don't go crazy. But yeah. In
the words of Bob and Larry from the book of the Bible called VeggieTales.
Yep, that's my favorite one.
God made you special, and he loves you very much. And we love you too. We love you too. So we want you to follow us on Instagram. We have got some really exciting things coming your way there, like along the lines of some merch and some books that are coming soon. Like, we don't want to give all the spoilers, but we do want to let you know we've got some great resources coming your way. So hit us up, send us a message. We'd love to hear your story and even host you here on the podcast. But for now, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
That's right. Peace.